Hey guys, Mike Sutton here. Welcome back to the weekly Be Build Have live business happiness and success session. It's hard to be happy with your business when things aren't going the way that you want them to go. And that's what we're all here for, is to get this sorted out so that we can just be achieving our goals, earning what we're worth, managing our time, developing relationships, and building the businesses that we want. And my video guests are having a hard time getting connected today. So I'm going to kick this off solo, but I am expecting Dr. Bill back and possibly Abbie and Tristan. So we will just get at it and jump right in. Do have a couple people in the chat room, which is totally awesome. This new format has been incredible. I've been doing a lot of thinking about what my core values are. My core values are creativity, engagement, and true value. And the old Be Build Have podcast that I was doing didn't give me that engagement that I wanted. I'd hear from a couple people, but I just felt like I was talking to myself, and this lets me engage with my audience. And the initial feedback has been awesome. I heard from Adric, who's a long-time listener, who's not on with us this week. Abbie's getting joined in right now. So Adric reached out to me on Twitter. He was one of the first fans of the show ever to reach out to me. And his feedback was that I sound as happy as Timmy from A Christmas Story in the last episode that we did. That is absolutely the case. I love doing these. Heard from Abbie Finch, who says, I've become addicted to Be Build Have's podcast. Highly recommended, very inspirational and informative for entrepreneurs. She's at ScribeSpaceX on Twitter. So, I love the feedback, 100% on the right path. I love the way this is going. This is the live recording for the Be Build Have podcast. So let's get started. If anybody wants to join in as we're doing this live next week, just go to bebuildhave.com/join live to register. And so I start like I always start with wins. So get ready to enter your wins in the chat box. My win for the week is keeping this going. It's getting a little bit smoother. Some of the guests are having a hard time joining today, but we're forging ahead. And really just getting connect with listeners. It's created a lot more engagement for me. And I'm getting a lot of clarity on my ideal target market and my core message and what it is, the true value that I provide. Also signed a new coaching client this week. So, just overloading with wins. I love the way things are going. And I do have one of my video guests. So I am going to introduce the amazing event planner who's helping coaches get started with their own retreat events. She does huge events all over the country. You there, Abbie?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can. So the way we get started with all these networking meetings is to share a win, something that's gone well for you this week. So why don't you give yourself a little bit of an introduction, since this is your first time joining us, and then share a win, something that's been going really well for you this week.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. It's good to see you. Sorry that I was late. A win that I have is getting on here, so yay. Thank you to my amazing husband. He's like, just cut and paste the link. It worked. But yeah, thank you for the introduction. I am an event coach, so I do work with entrepreneurs and small business owners when they are ready to use the power of live events to grow their business. And that's whether you're just starting out or if you've been in the business for a while. Live events are amazing. It will catapult you to the next level. So when we signed a new client as well this week, so super excited. She has been holding one-day workshops and smaller events, so we're going to partner with her on her larger two-day event model. So that's awesome to start that process this week.
Awesome. And so for now, it's just you and me, but you are a small business owner. You're exactly the kind of person we're trying to talk to in the podcast. We've got some other people in the chat. Diana joined us. Can I share this message? Why am I not seeing it? Maybe because she just posted it. So Tristan is in the chat. She was supposed to be live on video, but had trouble getting connected. Amy shared a win, which is that she launched a new product to market. She's an Amazon reseller and launched a new product. So that was real exciting for her. And as I can also see that Diana's sharing a win, that she was asked to list a $795,000 property, which is totally awesome. That's super exciting. So lots of good wins from the chat room, wins from me and Abbie. This is the perfect way to get started. And we do start by sharing wins because as business owners, it can be really easy to just be stuck with your head in the weeds. And it's nice to just pick your head up and realize that sometimes things are just going well. Right, Abbie?
Celebrate everything. It's okay to have champagne on a Tuesday night.
Okay, I wasn't going to go that far, but all right.
You gotta have the bubbly. You have to have the bubbly.
Amy is totally on board with that. Amy joined us actually live on the video last week. This week she's just in the chat room. And we're looking for Dr. Bill to join us again. And maybe it looks like Tristan gave up. But so what I typically do is I'll come in with a couple topics in mind. But if something comes up through sharing the wins, if anybody has a challenge, then we can talk through that a little bit. But what has been really big on my mind this week, and I kind of was led to it through this quest to really connect more directly with my target market, is this idea of goal setting. Are you on board with that, Abbie?
I am. I love goal setting.
All right. So here's the way I've been thinking about it. It kind of occurred to me yesterday that like these big financial goals, like I want to build a successful business. I want to have a $1 million business or a $10 million business. In a lot of ways, that's almost like a big weight loss goal, in the sense that your bank account balance is like your body weight, and that it's not dependent on what you decided to spend your money on yesterday, or what you decided to eat for breakfast yesterday, or whether you decided to exercise or not exercise. It's the aggregate of all the decisions that you've made in that area over the past couple months. So if you're not happy with the results you're getting, it's about tracing it back to the individual behaviors that lead to that outcome that you want, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I thought this was really interesting to start with these goals that we have. And a lot of business owners are frustrated because they're not reaching their goals. And I think they run into trouble in a couple areas. One is not having their goals aligned with their core values. Mm-hmm. So for me, my core values are creativity, engagement, and providing true value. And the more I kind of build my business and my tasks to be aligned with those goals, the easier they are for me to achieve. And feel free to jump in anytime here, Abbie, as we go through. I'm just
that's great. I'm taking notes. I got my notepad out, so I'm taking notes too.
Awesome. I love it. And then once you have the goals, I think where people run into trouble with specifically with their goals is that they're not always their goals. They're not always the right goals. And sometimes it's just a lack of clarity around the goal, or even fear about either what happens if I achieve it or what happens if I don't achieve it. And it can work either way. And then the final place that's kind of falling into place for me is this idea of tying the goals back to the daily behaviors. So if I want to put $1 million in the bank, what do I need to be doing day to day with every financial decision, with every opportunity to make good decisions that lead me to that outcome? What jumps out at you here, Abbie?
Yeah, I like it all. The core value is super, super important. And we really tie that back into what we help our clients with, because we always begin with the end in mind. So we're beginning with the end product of the event, and we build out the how after that. So your goals really go back to what your why is. What is your why? What are you bringing? How are you serving people? How are you helping people? And you talked about sales. I think last week you had talked about kind of sales, and sales is service. So, that has to be part of your core value, that you're bringing service to people in your business and how you position yourself with that. So I think that's a great, great starting point.
And this,
I think fear. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, this can be kind of a new way for people to think about these things. I know for me, when I started thinking about it in terms of core values, that was really eye-opening for me, because for a long time, I'd kind of been frustrated with the results I was getting in my tech business. And what I realized is that creativity is really important to me. So my creativity was actually being engaged in my tech business, but engagement, connection with people is actually also really important to me. And that wasn't being engaged in my tech business. Mm-hmm. And so there was a mismatch between what I was trying to achieve and the tasks that I was doing day to day. So first, I'm going to ask the chat room to take a minute to think about your core value and type in what you think your top 1 or 2 or 3 core values are. And if you haven't thought about it in the past, just like think through, what are the activities that give you the most joy and delight, and what really makes you feel good about your business, and share that with us. And so my question back to Abbie is, you said start with the end in mind. Mm-hmm. Important, huge step. Mm-hmm. How often are people able to do that right off the bat, or do you kind of ask them what their outcome is and then have to even go back a little bit further?
Yeah, that's a good question. We do, starting with the end in mind is not only what you want the event to look like, it's also the results that you want your attendees to get. So we look at it from the two perspectives. And sometimes it is really getting clear on that. And it is, it helps you formulate how long you'll be working with someone and how long the event will be or anything like that. But yeah, we do a lot, people will just come and just say, you know, yeah, I'm going to do this, but they don't have what they want the outcome to be. So we do have to work with them on that. Are you doing this for list building? Do you want people in the room just strictly to build your list? Do you want people in the room to work with you after the event? So yeah, there's definitely work on our end with getting people clear on what they want to do.
This is to say, obviously, running a successful event is an outcome, but
yeah.
why is running a successful event important to your business at all?
Yeah, because do you want to grow coaching clients out of it? So that would be a success to your business, because if you have your $1 million goal in mind, you know, how many events do you have to do, or what type of event do you have to do to help you reach that goal of your revenue goal? Just say a revenue goal is your overall, you know, year-end goal. So building it out from there is one perspective how we look at it too.
So is this a matter of keeping your eye on the big picture? Is it a matter of making a distinction between your daily tasks and where you're actually trying to go? I know it can be easy to feel busy in our businesses, and it feels progress to be replying to a bunch of emails, but that may not actually be growing our business. What it gets in the way of people seeing like what the big picture is in your experience?
A good way to do it is you can even break it down to what you have to do within a day. So, you know, if you want 60 people in the room and we're, you know, 100 days out, how many tickets a day do you have to sell? So we kind of look at it from that perspective. Obviously, you know, some days you're going to have better days than other days, but it kind of breaks it down into those smaller numbers. So chunking it down into a smaller scale. So for your example, for the $1 million for a year, break that down into what do you have to make every month? What do you have to make every week? What do you have to make every day? So you're kind of like chunking it down, because $1 million is a huge goal. It's totally doable. But when you look at that number, it can be, and that's where fear comes in, because then that comes into what happens when I make that? What happens if I don't make that? So chunking it down into smaller numbers, it helps you keep it realistic and keep it attainable. You know, we do bubble charts. We have, you know, our pads of paper out, and if you want 10 people in, you fill in a name every day. We do it on site with our clients too when we're, you know, when we're selling their coaching packages. We have your chart so you can actually see the numbers going down and getting more realistic. So keeping it realistic is key.
I love it. And that's actually the process that I've been going through in taking the big goals and tying them back to the actual daily behaviors that build that up. And I'll actually even share some of my goals and how I've been going through that process. And we asked about people's core values. So Amy shared that her core values are providing products that delight people and make their lives easier, also creating profit and freedom for herself as a result. Diana shared her core values are freedom, value, and trust and security. Awesome core values. It accounts for what you're looking for out of your business, as well as how you're going to serve your clients in your business. And then Tristan's core values are art, relationships, and authenticity. And these are spectacular because these become the framework that you use to make decisions day to day about what you should be doing in your business. Every time and that's what time management is about, is deciding how to use the time that you have available to do all the million number of things that you could be doing. So that the first criteria that you can look at is doing this thing going to lead me and be consistent with my core values? Is it going to lead me where I want to go? So just to share, I've been kind of going through this myself. So my goals for my business have to do or my goals in general have to do with growing my business. And also, I like a very holistic approach to just who I am. I feel good about myself if I'm in shape and mentally healthy and emotionally healthy and my business is going well. This is where I want to be. And I don't think there's anything that stops us from doing that. So the 5 goals that I've been working on, one is adding 20 to 25 opt-ins per day. So these are my 90-day goals. So by the end of 90 days, I want to be consistently adding 20 to 25 new people to my list who have come on the webinar, who have downloaded a report, who I've connected through with social media. And so by the end of 90 days, I want to be at the point where I'm consistently generating 20 to 25 opt-ins, which leads to a list of about 2,000 people within 90 days and then 5,000 people within a year, which is a fairly standard benchmark in information marketing. 10 coaching clients. I'm about halfway to that right now. Again, within 90 days, 10 solid coaching clients. And these two things together really set the solid foundation for my coaching business to just be healthy, stable, and I can grow in any direction I want from there. And then the other goals are more personal goals: get to 185 pounds, run 5 miles in 40 minutes. So this isn't quite the 7-minute mile pace that I had when I was in the Marine Corps, but it's still a pretty aggressive running pace for me. And then this one, I just like, it's more about what it represents to me. So I want to be able to sit in full lotus position for 2 minutes. And that really, to me, represents flexibility and openness. And so that may change, and I know that there are, opinions on that particular position, but this is what I'm working towards. So they all reinforce to me health, balance, flexibility, and just really engage my core values. Anything you want to share based on that, Abbie?
No, that's good. I like the combination of the work and pleasure, because it's really going to help you keep your business and your life separate if you have those two sets of goals. That's actually I haven't done that, so that's really good. I learned something.
And I mean, it really just goes to that balance, because I want to be, if I'm a happy person, it's hard for me to be a happy person if things aren't going right if I feel bad about myself physically, or if I feel bad about the way my business is going, or if I feel like a hypocrite because I'm not doing what I tell my clients to do. And this is what I want to work towards, is that our businesses can be anything that we want them to be. Mm-hmm. The lifestyle for us is always the people that we are in our businesses. The more congruent with that I can be, which I think that word came to mind because I just saw Dr. Bill joined us. So we're going to let him jump in. Oh, he's saying he can't hear. That's probably on you, Bill.
Okay.
There we go.
I can hear now.
And Bill and I actually had a coaching session this morning, and we were talking about a lot of these ideas around goal setting and these kinds of things. So Dr. Bill, rock star chiropractor, superstar networker, rising star, headed towards world domination. You want to give yourself a quick introduction, and we'll just backtrack a little and let you share a win?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dr. Bill Moss. I have my own company, Keystone Specific Chiropractic Center. I'm in my own office, right now. We opened back in November, and things have been great, and just have been building momentum every single month. So I would have to say a win for me this week is I feel like I cleared a lot of mental clutter that has resulted in, or I've cleaned a lot of physical clutter within my business and my marketing and things like that of that nature that has resulted in a clearer mindset, clearer focus, and allowed me to get more done and have more energy and fun. So it's been a really good week, and kind of starting from the ground up, and it's been awesome. So that's kind of my win.
Yeah, and so that kind of goes to what Abbie and I have been chatting about before you joined here, is like really kind of a continuation of that goal setting conversation that you and I had been having, and this idea that we start with our core values, develop our goals, and then tie those goals to daily behaviors that we can follow on an ongoing basis that are going to naturally lead to those goals, and then the fulfillment of our core values. So I was just sharing what my 5 goals were in terms of building the business and physical fitness. And it really creates, between those two things, between having clear goals like that, knowing with keeping, like Abbie said, the end result in mind, and having the core values to balance that against, really makes it easy to start looking at, okay, well, what do I need to be doing on a daily basis to be able to get to this point? Mm-hmm. Where do we want to go, Abbie and Bill? All right. Well, I definitely want to start hearing what some of the goals are from the chat room. And Bill, this is the conversation we had this morning, is that over the past couple weeks we've looked at a couple different things. We've looked at, and like you and I, public speaking, time management, growth goals. Like, how are these things all coming together for you? You know, your business is growing. You opened the door to a full book. Now you're just looking to do better, which is exactly where most business owners want to be. So how are all these things coming together, looking at those core values and alignment and all this in your business?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think one of the big takeaways for me was realizing sometimes different tasks require a greater shift in mental energy, mental focus during the week. So pocketing really great contrasts of work that need to be done right next to each other is very inefficient for me. So that was a huge takeaway from today, meaning if I have to take care of people and patients and manage their expectations and really the doctoral duties, that requires a different energy than and discipline than the marketing or the creative endeavors that I dive into, right? The products, the marketing, the writing, all of those things, they're a far cry from each other. Both of them give me a ton of energy, but when paired and going back and forth between those two, it just doesn't work as well. And if I continue to do that, I sacrifice things like getting up and working out and health, because it's a mental gap that's like way too far. But if I start to chunk them as to what are the things that allow me to have the best energy to serve people during the day, I'm going to serve people better, and then figuring out where the pockets of time are that I can be my most creative, where they're far away from it. And I think that's how we kind of restructured today, which gives me insight like, oh man, because I'm very excited to work on both ends of that spectrum, meaning I love the patient experience, but I also love the marketing, but I hate when they're both on top of each other. So that was huge takeaway for me today.
I love it. And chat room, let's hear what some of your goals are. What I heard in that is about setting yourself up for success and reaching your goal. So you know that part of your daily behaviors have to be spending time on creativity and spending time on production, but you don't want to be caught bouncing back and forth between the two because that makes you inefficient, right?
Yep, exactly. I mean,
so the behavior, as you're developing the daily behaviors, it's also important to set yourself up for success by knowing what's going to drain energy from you on a daily basis. What's going to trigger you to not do the behaviors? What's going to set you up to have the most success? So in Dr. Bill's case, this is batching activities so that you can have focus time on task-based activities and then focus time on creative-based activities, and you're not getting stuck trying to bounce back and forth, right?
Correct.
Awesome. Anything jumping out at you here, Abbie?
Yeah. So you're using your calendar to help you task that out so that you have like from 10 to 12 I'm working on this, from 12 to 2 I'm working on this. Is that kind of how you're tasking it out?
Yeah, it is kind of tasking it out. Or yes, in the sense that I have like I work in sprints a little bit more where I see patients and then boom, there's downtime, and then I see patients and boom, there's downtime. And I also know this about myself is I don't like to work like late. So I like to be done at the end of the day. So if I'm going to, kind of bring about the things, I put them on in the morning. But then it allows me to like chunk times on the weekend where like I feel more creative, where sitting down for 2 hours to work on my email list or the content I'm developing or marketing, I enjoy that, but I don't enjoy it in the midst of like where I'm doing doctoral things like managing people during the day. It's not the same type of experience. So I was trying to kind of fit those in and going back and forth in my day, and it was just leading to counterproductivity and lack of energy. And I never really put the 2 and 2 together until this week, and it's like, oh, it's refreshing. It's like I just gave myself permission to say, oh, this is what I'm going to do during that time because that's what I like to do. But I also like these things, and I'll get them done over here. And so, yeah, it is blocking within hours, but it's also on days. Like Friday, I don't see people, and some people are like, why don't you see people? Well, because I need to have time like this to brainstorm, to get intimate with my goals and what I really want to accomplish. So that's just as important.
Yeah, I think that's key. I think that is a huge takeaway that I hope everybody joining us understands. Knowing when you work best on specific things that you have to get done, because that's probably a big mistake that people make when they first start business, is they're doing what Mike said, a lot of busy work. It's like you think if you're in your email for 6 hours, that's great. It's really not. You need to, chunk it out into getting on the phone, doing those creative tasks. I'm a night owl. I work until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning because that's when I'm most creative. I'm most creative between midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning. Drives my husband crazy because he's like, you should be in bed. And I'm like, no, this is when I can pump out those emails and the stuff that I have to do. And then during the day, I can focus on, the negotiation things that I have to do, the cold calls I have to make. So that's a huge, huge takeaway for new business owners, knowing when you work best on those tasks and putting it in your calendar. I have found that I have to do that. I have to put on my calendar, you will be on the phone from this time to this time, because you will find excuses not to do it. So.
How did you figure that out for your own business, Abbie?
Because I wasn't getting business, because I wasn't connecting with people. So there's the harsh reality. if you don't, because I found myself making excuses. I found myself going, oh, well, I can go get my nails done, or I can go out shopping, I can do this. So when you put it in your calendar and it pops up that you have to be on the phone from this time to this time, you're going to be home and you're going to do it.
And this is kind of the difference between working around your business versus really working on your business.
Right.
The business is getting focused on what are those activities that are going to actually help me reach my business goals.
Right. Yeah. And putting it on your calendar, doing it, and putting your networking events on there and things like that. Your follow-up for your networking events too, because the follow-up is key. So if you go to a networking event, and I'm sure Bill can attest to this, putting that follow-up time in your calendar, that if the event is from 12 to 2, between 3 and 3:30, you're going to make those phone calls, shoot those emails to follow up with people. I've just found for myself that if it's written down, it's more that I have to do it, rather than in my head going, oh yeah, I need to follow up with that person.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like once you get that focus and realize what it is that's going to help you grow, there's a discipline element to focusing on it. But I find also in my business that the things that need to get done can be done shockingly fast if you actually just sit down and do them.
Yeah. Yes, they can.
Procrastinating and putting them off and thinking about it and ruminating and making excuses and going to run errands in the meantime, that slows us down, right?
It does. And it affects your business, because if you're not doing them, nobody else is doing them. It's your job to do them. So, you definitely have to. I have found just having those embedded just keeps me accountable to myself, because it's hard to say to yourself, like, oh, I didn't do that. I don't have anyone else to blame but me. So.
And Amy's a rock star as a doer, and so her tip is to write it down to clear the mental clutter and energy drain, which I totally agree with. And goes to what Abbie said about getting on a calendar. If you know that you don't have to keep track of all these things in your head, if you know there's time scheduled for it, then you can just let go of it and move on. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have that, then it's all just stuck in your head, taking up space and consuming energy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've heard some of the goals. You've got a lot of financial goals, a lot of business stuff. Like, what are some of the challenges? What gets in the way of achieving goals? We talked about focusing on it. We talked about getting it scheduled. We talked about batching it as a technique so that you can stay focused in one frame of mind for a productive period of time. Like, what gets in the way of achieving goals? Is that something either of you run into trouble with lately?
Yeah, I think sometimes you choose the wrong goals. I think people get caught up in, I know in my own circles within my own profession, you start choosing, the dangerous place to be is to choose other people's goals, right? You don't want to choose anything that's somebody else's goal, because if it doesn't make sense to you, it's not achieving or tracking. I used to be a competitive marathon or distance runner. My goals within that were totally different than maybe my competitors, and that's totally okay, but mine are worth chasing. So I think when you're picking, it's another alignment issue. You're not picking goals that are in line with what you want to do and get you excited every day. Or even in sprints, like today Mike and I were like, all right, a 60-day goal, and it was like, sweet, that's awesome. Like, let's work in a little sprint here. You can have big pictures that keep you motivated every day, but it's kind of nice to frame it down almost like in, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds by the end of the summer. Now I don't. You don't have to worry about me. But the thing about doing that is, it's like, well, let's just get psyched about the workout today. What's today's workout? So I think chunking is fun for me, and in the essence, because that's kind of how you do your week. That's kind of how we reframe it. So I think choosing appropriate goals is one of the best things about it.
So what ties that together for a business owner who thinks, okay, well, I'm starting a business, and I don't know what it's supposed to look like, but I know I need to make money, so $100,000, and I know that I need clients, so 50 clients. How do you start to make it your goal versus just, you know, what you think you should be doing?
Well, I mean, that's kind of like, that's tiering your goals, because let's say this, like last summer I wasn't open. So I didn't have a monetary goal for July. I wasn't open. You know, what was that going to be unless I was starting another business? But I did know what I wanted to see when I opened, and I also knew what I wanted. My markers were like, how many meetings am I going to attend this week? How many contacts am I going to collect? How many, you know, where am I going to spend? What products am I going to accomplish? Like, am I going to finalize my website, right? Website. So my goals were drastically different, but they were still energy. Like, you know, it's still energy focused on building. So I think it's important that the goals have energy attached to them, where you're going to go work to them. Because I would be like, I'm going to go to 100 networking meetings before I got open. That was one of the things, and then I tracked it. Every day it was on a board, and I'd see it, and I'd go after it. And I'd fit meetings in so I could meet more people. And it was like, okay, well, now I want to grab more contacts. So I think it's just the context of the goal, along with, does it get you motivated to go for your bigger goals?
So with that 100 networking meetings goal, you worked backwards from where you wanted to be, which is to open the doors with a good schedule, and you knew that to get there you needed to be able to go, you need to be going through these behaviors, and that if you were consistent about these behaviors, which you could control, getting the outcome that you wanted, which you couldn't necessarily directly control, would be more likely.
Yeah, it would be more likely. And plus, it also keeps you out of the, like when you have goals that you're working towards, it kind of pulls you away from your fears too. You know, finding goals that pull you out of, that are bigger than your fears is important, because that was huge. Like when you're not seeing people, you're not making money or anything, you need something to just drag you out of that concept of like, what if this doesn't work out? So the more you can fill a goal that does that, I think the bigger it can be and the better it can be. So
yeah, I love it, and that really kind of is what I've gone through even with this podcast. When I started podcasting a year ago, I was so hung up on, well, how do I get the best guests, and how do I get 100,000 downloads, and how do I monetize it, and all these things, and that delayed me from even launching for months. And I finally had to get to the point where I can't control any of those things. I just need to start, which I did. But the fact is, this show now, today, is the show that I always wanted to do, but I held off on doing that just because I was afraid of, well, how am I going to attract people to listen to it, and what if it doesn't work, and how am I going to do it? But now that I'm actually doing it, I already feel so much more fulfilled and happy and satisfied with the outcome, just because I'm doing what I know I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing what I wanted to do. These businesses that we build are our businesses. We can make them be anything that we want them to be. So why not make them be exactly what we want? What about, have you gone through some of this, Abbie?
A little bit, yeah. I was definitely probably scared. You know, when I started my business, I wasn't going to do travel and be on site and things like that. So I definitely held myself back there. And it was kind of one of those things, like I knew what my end goal should be, and I knew the clients I thought I wanted to work with, but it just turned out that, you know, the business kind of took on a whole different, people wanted me on site, people wanted me doing everything. So after like 2 or 3 people, you know, reaching out for that, it was like, okay, I hear you. So let's kind of reshift and redo. And yeah, I couldn't be happier. You know, it's a lot of fun, and I love it. So.
And did you find that those adjustments that you had to make along the way ended up being more aligned with your core values anyway, or were you kind of?
Yeah, you know, that's actually, yeah, yes, because I like to make things as stress-free as possible for my clients. So actually being on site lets me do that, because I can help, you know, just manage them staying calm, and, you know, the venue, they're not talking to the venue, they're not dealing with anything behind the scenes, so it takes a lot off their plate and their team's plate so that their team can be there to support them. So yeah, it really did tie back to that.
Yeah. So what for both of you, I mean, for me, what was getting in the way of doing what I knew I should be doing anyway was fear. And what I'm seeing in the chat room, like Amy says, the thing that's holding back is fear and anxiety, pushing past her own perceived limits, because the truth is there are no limits, but what the mind and body sometimes tries to trick us into believing. Tristan says it's the mental energy and letting the personal clutter take up emotional bandwidth. For me, it was fear, like what. So if we've got this goal, some of the things that I mentioned in the setup was that, you know, Phil said it might not be your goal. I said you might not have good clarity, and there might be an element of fear. What happens if I don't achieve it? What happens if I do achieve it? What gets us moving anyway? How do we get past all these things and reach our goals?
The don't achieve one, my coach that I had when I first started my business, one of the things that really took away, because I was brand new, clients, I had nothing, I did not have clarity at all. And at one of our live events, like one of the mastermind type meetings, we were talking about goal setting, and the one thing that kind of resonated with me, that kind of helped me push forward on goals, was don't change the goal, you can change the deadline. So, if you're going at it and you're hitting obstacles, you're hitting challenges, change that deadline. So that helped with me, because I really kind of went gung-ho, and I was like, I'll make $1 million my first year. So we've changed the deadline a little bit in this process. But and fear is huge, and it really does go back to holding you back, and it in so many different ways of, can I do this? Can I be a success? And when I hit that goal, what's going to happen? I think you touched on that earlier, and I think that holds people back too, because if we do become so successful, what do our peers think of us? What do our family members think of us? And I think that gets in the way too a lot.
So I love this, because what I'm hearing is that if we know what our core values are, and we generate our goals to be aligned with our core values, and we can develop the daily behaviors that are going to get us there, then the best possible outcome is that we basically achieve everything that we really want. The things that are most important to us, and the things that we're really going to be fulfilled and satisfied by, which is really why we're building these businesses in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so super easy. Let's all just go reach all our goals and be rich and vacation in Hawaii together, right?
Sounds good. I can get us a hotel.
Yeah, that's good.
Just let me know.
Let's put that down as a goal. So when do we want to do this, guys?
I like it.
We're planning a trip to Hawaii next year. Amy and I have been married for 20 years, and we were going to go to Hawaii. Yeah, I got married when I was 12. Well, not when she was 12, but we wanted to go this year, but we were both launching new businesses, and we ended up selling the IT firm, and so it just made more sense to go next year. But definitely planning on getting out there. Have either of you been to Hawaii?
No, I'm booking an event in Hawaii right now. I should probably talk to you, because I need some help.
Like, everything you imagine about how perfect Hawaii is, it's absolutely that way.
Yeah.
We're considering it at Christmas. It's kind of in the wheelhouse of maybe we'll take that trip. I've wanted to go forever, so we're taking a trip. We just don't know where yet. So.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, like, does anybody have questions? Like, I want to hear questions from the chat room. Like, how do we tie all this together? So you've heard us talk about tying your goals to your core values, converting the goals into daily behaviors, setting yourself up for success with the daily behaviors, by being on the lookout for things that are going to trigger you to either abandon those behaviors or ways to recover if you miss out on those behaviors. So, like, what's missing? What ties this together for everybody so that we actually do get to the point where we're just achieving all our goals? Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I think one of the biggest pieces is culture. I think if you don't have a culture that kind of fosters that type of spirit, it makes it more difficult to combat the energy or to really keep going for it. I think one of the biggest differences between me going after my goals in this past year or more than previous ones has a lot to do with the people, with the things I read, with the things I listen to, the culture I've kind of surrounded myself with or created that always seems to support at least the mentality and the idea of you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to have it all figured out, but progress and work and having a purpose or having goals to chase after is really a lot easier when you surround yourself in a chat room like this on a Friday afternoon, or when you have a coffee with somebody who just gets you jazzed to keep going. Because I think a lot of us, it's almost like that doesn't get brought out by a lot of people, right? So then we all just keep surrounding ourselves without really trying to live our full purpose. And then you read things and you let yourself be programmed on a regular basis by everybody else's thoughts, actions, ideas, material, media, and you never take time to like fill yourself up with what you want and the people you want to be around. I just came from a networking meeting where somebody was doing a Myers-Briggs thing, and it's really enlightening how you can see your personality could go two different ways, where it's like, I used to think I was way more of an introvert because I needed to be away from people to rejuvenate. But the truth is, if I'm right around the right people, I can be around them all the time, and I'm always rejuvenated. So does that really make me introverted, or does that actually mean that I just haven't been aligning myself with the people who support my goals, my dreams, or just being better on a regular basis? So
I love that, and that's really why I set this up, because I mentioned last week, it's kind of based on a weekly networking meeting that I used to run, and people would come and say, like, this is the highlight of my week. This is where I come to get rejuvenated after I've been getting beat by my clients all week long. This is perfect. And that's what I really want people to see, is that you need to surround yourself with people who are going to be supportive. And most of us don't have a majority of our friends are business owners. Most of us didn't grow up with parents who were business owners. And so we don't have that background. So now here we are in the world surrounded by employees and people who are struggling, and political news and bad news on TV all day long, and trying to have this positive mindset that's going to help us be successful in our businesses, and it can be a real struggle. And so I think just as important as putting yourself in those situations to get that charge, to get that recharge, exactly like you said, Bill, is cutting yourself off from as many of those negative influences as you can. I know I used to be one who would just jump into political debate at the drop of a hat. You couldn't hold me back. I loved it. But I really realized it was just bringing a huge amount of negative energy into my life that had no useful purpose. So I just stopped paying attention. I stopped watching the news. I stopped reading about politics. I stopped arguing with people about it. And the only outcome has been that I've been happier for not doing any of that. And so there are a lot of these little opportunities that we have through our lives. What works for you, Abbie?
Yeah, the news is, but I haven't read a news article in probably 2 years. I don't even watch the news. So yeah, huge thing there. And political things too. I also married someone that is on my same core values as well. So that has helped a lot as well. But yeah, huge. And I really liked what Bill said, the support and surrounding. You've got to surround yourself with people, not only the level that you're at, but the level that you want to achieve to be at. That support is huge, and one of the reasons that I am such a firm believer in coaching, you can't do this alone, because all of our friends are probably at jobs and have that employee mindset, and you can't have that mindset when you're a business owner. So that's huge. And just if something is not working on your goal, if you're not headed on that path to get it, take a step back and figure out why, and figure out what's going on, and taking the responsibility too. That was something I really had to learn, just in my business and personally, of taking responsibility for things. And once I kind of stood up and understood, what was holding me back personally was really affecting me professionally too. Huge change in what happened with where I wanted my business to go and things like that. And just know that we're human, not everything's going to work. So if it's not working, figuring out why and changing it. So.
And it's really, like, it can almost feel like a chicken and egg problem, because if you're not happy, no matter what results you get in your business, you're not going to be happy, and you're not going to get as good results. But it's hard to be happy if you're not getting good results in your business. So the place to get started is, the easiest thing to change is how you feel, your perspective. And so even if, the thing I always tell people is, even if nothing else in your business changes, except you feel better about it, isn't that a good enough reason to do it?
Mm-hmm.
If you start there, then even if you're not making more money, if you feel better about it, then you're still better off, and you're going to end up making more money about it, at it. So let's get started.
Yeah.
And we're getting awesome participation in the chat room. I've been trying to put up some of these messages. I did mention Adric at the beginning of the episode. He was one of the first people that I ever connected with on social media because of the Be Build Have podcast. He tweeted me probably close to a year ago now, and I love that he's in the live chat. We've had Amy and Diana just going crazy. Amy agrees with Bill that it's critically important to have someone to be accountable to, and supportive of your goals and desire to achieve them. I think that also ties to what Abbie said about having a supportive spouse. For small business owners, that's really important. And Amy also says, be careful to be accountable to someone who won't block you. Love that. Diana, looking at developing a mindset of abundance, using mantras and just focusing on abundance and seeing that paying off in her life by getting the call for listings and also some rental opportunities that she's working on. Yeah, so Adric points out that the personality of the owner is what's going to determine the success of the business. And I think this goes back to our alignment. If the business that we're building is aligned with our core values, and I talk about that, this is actually kind of the core of my coaching that I do, is that we have all these different forces that act on us. We have our values, our beliefs, our desires, our behaviors, and our habits. And if all these things are lined up, then achieving our goals is just the natural outcome of what we do. It's easy for us. But if we find that we're not achieving our goals, or if we find that it's a real struggle to achieve our goals and we're being blown back, then it's because one of these forces is out of alignment. And if we can figure out what that is and get everything lined up, then success really can just kind of start to feel easier. I mean, do you both feel that?
Yeah.
Like, as these things just become aligned, it just comes faster and easier and faster and easier, and it just creates this cycle?
I think it has to. I mean, I think some of the perspectives of when you scale things out and you realize everybody has the same amount of time on a regular basis, it has to be scalable to like just move faster and faster and faster. And it wouldn't be able to get bigger and bigger and bigger if it didn't align at the core. You know, I think that was the reality that you and I have been speaking about a lot lately, is if those little kind of pieces of why you're doing, like just even small tasks are really out of balance, out of like those pieces you just talked about, it's a lot harder. You're like always working uphill against the stream, where it's a lot easier to kind of jump in with who you are and make it work for you as opposed to being against the current all week, because that sucks. I mean, that's why you want to like quit, or you lose your passion or your desire and you want to change what you're doing. Well, maybe not. Maybe you just have to change the way you're doing it. So I think that's one of the big takeaways for me with a lot of the conversations we've had and a lot of the things about goals and the pieces that fit in.
And what I heard in that is that if you're fighting against yourself, you can't win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
Love it. Abbie, anything to add?
Yeah, totally. If you're doing something that you don't like, outsource it. You know, if you're not a creative writing person, get a copywriter. You know, if you don't like invoicing and collecting payment, you should have an accountant anyway, right from the beginning. But you know, outsource the stuff that you don't like to do. And it's hard when you're starting out. It's hard to have that mindset but it will get you. It'll come back and get you.
Yeah, and outsourcing and focusing on the things that you're best at and that you want to be doing. Amy earlier in the chat recommended The Big Leap, which is a great book that really talks about how there are things that we shouldn't be doing, things that we can do, things that we can do well, and then everything that we should be doing that's truly aligned with who we are. And so our success as business owners will be maximized when we can spend the most of our time doing the activities that are truly in our zone of genius, that we're truly meant to be doing, and getting everything else off our plate. This, I think, is a similar concept to what Dan Sullivan talks about with Strategic Coach on the 10X podcast. And I think it's a good guide also, because a lot of business owners look to try to outsource things because they don't want to do it, but they don't really have a criteria for deciding if it's something that they should be doing or something that they're good at, or if outsourcing it is helping them make more money. So what's the balance there, Abbie, in figuring out what it is that you really should be doing and focusing your time on, and what are the things that you really should let go of?
Really goes back to your core values. And what is your service to your clients? You know, I have my assistant do all the behind-the-scenes gathering of any pricing things that we have to do for, like, you know, name tags, lanyards, printing, signage, floral. She does all of that because that's her genius. That's what she's good at. She's good at going and finding it. My genius is negotiating with the hotels, putting the agendas together, and coaching the clients through what they need to do. So, you know, it might be as simple as coming down and writing. You know, I don't like doing accounting either. I don't like doing any of that. So she handles all the invoicing and collecting of payments and things like that. Just because I just don't like it. And I would hold myself up on it. I would sit here and, you know, look for these things that I don't even know where to go start looking for them, and then 3 hours would be gone. And even, you know, cleaning, I don't like to clean. So, you know, just little things like that. Because what happens when you're doing your business, you use those things as excuses too. So, you know, I'll go clean a room versus doing something that I should be doing. So kind of looking at your day and where do you spend on things that you're doing, and is it outsourceable? Can you outsource it so you can be in your genius? But it goes back to your core values. What are you actually serving your clients with, and what are you good at, and where do you help them the most?
So here's a good question, Abbie. Amy asks, how do you outsource if you're a control freak?
That is good. That is a good one. You gotta just let it go. If you are a control freak as far as cleaning, and you know that you should have a housekeeper at this point in your life, and it would take so much time off your plate, leave when they come to clean, because then you won't be worried about what they're doing. And you do just have to let things go. Not everybody's going to do everything how you do it. And you know, we actually just had not an argument. We don't argue, but we had a discussion on how to load the dishwasher. I think it should be done one way. He thinks it should be another way. You know what? If he does the dishes, I don't have to do it. Awesome.
Yeah, I think it partly goes to, you know, being okay with the outcome, even if it's not exactly the way you would do it. But also, I think, and I know you're going through some of this, Bill, is if you can have confidence delegating to somebody if you can make the expectations for performance clear, and the more of a process you have around it, so you can just hand somebody a process and say do this, then you can have a lot higher confidence than if you're expecting them to drive the process or be a little bit more creative. How's that showing up for you, Bill?
Yeah, and that's a tough thing for me because I'm not a person who like necessarily loves to be confined to processes, but I do need freedom, so it's a step back to go forward in essence of creating these processes. So it's like if I am doing a task right now that I just have to do within my business, if that's a marketing system or anything, if I can, that's what I'm working on, is identifying all those processes and procedures, creating a plan for them, so then I can easily outsource them. If that's to my CA, if that's to hiring another employee, if that's to somebody else. That, you know, that's super important. It makes things scalable, because ultimately, if I want to open other offices, things need to be scalable, and that's where in my business as chiropractors, people miss the boat all the time. They miss the boat on marketing, they miss the boat on outsourcing, and really even having that mindset. And I think that's one of the reasons that we were super successful right from the beginning too, because I didn't spend time doing all of my books or all my accounting and all of my writing and website and all of those things. I found the right people at a good cost at that point and did it. And it freed me up so much more. And now it's like my wife and I are doing this in the home. It's nice to have the freedom and be like, I'm not cooking Monday through Thursday. It does nothing for me except makes me feel like worn out and I don't want to do it. So we're either going out or we're having somebody deliver meals. It's just a thing I identified that just wears me out and I'm not doing it. So same thing in the business. I had to step back. We're writing all these processes. So boom, when we have the opportunity, we go for it.
So one area, like a lot of business owners will want to outsource, and I think that they can run into trouble with this, is sales, because they feel like they're not good at selling. So they think, well, I could just hire a salesperson and then I can do what I'm best at and I don't have to worry about that piece. I think there are a lot of hazards there. And look, I've been tempted to do that myself, especially in the IT business. I think this is what business is about. If you're the owner of a business, your first responsibility is driving revenue. And so that means get comfortable with sales at some level. Selling has to do more with your confidence in your product and your ability, or not your ability to connect with people, to just communicate emotionally what you already feel. And we communicate emotion naturally, easily, effortlessly. So if you feel confident and secure in the value of your product and your ability to deliver, and you're not tied up in being rejected or accepted or how am I going to pay the bills and how, like, all this other stuff, then sales can come a lot more naturally for a lot of people. It's really just a matter of techniques and strategies. All that stuff is out there. But what a lot of business owners run into is that fear and anxiety. And so I would typically advise, if you're at the point where you have a process and you can do it and you can hand that process off to somebody else, yeah, go ahead. But if you're trying to get out of doing it because you're afraid, then you're much better off looking at that underlying fear than trying to avoid and find workarounds to not have to face that. Okay, so we started our live networking meeting as an hour-long event and ended up expanding it to an hour and a half because we could never finish in an hour. And I feel like that's where we're getting to now. So chat room, start entering in your key takeaways. And for anybody listening, I do publish this show as a podcast, the Be Build Have podcast. If anybody who listens wants to join us in the chat or live on video, go to bebuildhave.com/join live. And you can register for the next upcoming event. We are going to be here next Friday, the 24th at 2 p.m. And you'll be able to join us then. The following week, the 27th, I won't be here. I'm volunteering for PFEW, Pennsylvania Free Enterprise Week, to go be a business advisor for a group of high school students. But next week, the July 24th, 2 p.m., we will be here live. Head to bebuildhave.com/join live to participate in that, and this show is all about the participation. So chat room, enter your key takeaways that you've picked up from our conversation here today. I think for me, it really is just that, man, people make achieving goals so much more complicated than it needs to be, and that's really where we get into trouble. As business owners, we want to be happy, build a successful business, have control of our time and money. Like, these things on the surface all sound pretty straightforward, but we tie ourselves up in knots trying to get there. And I really am finding more and more that it just doesn't have to be that way if we can go through this process that we just talked about today, identifying your core values, aligning your goals with your core values, and then breaking the goals down into daily behaviors that are going to just naturally lead to that. Dr. Bill, any closing comments, key takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've talked about so many things. The major takeaway for me is I think it's hard when you're a business owner, you're pulled in a lot of different directions, and one that you stop to think about least, because you can get fixated on numbers and products and goals and numbers, but you forget to, like, what's my goal of how I want to feel throughout this process? Like, how do I feel through it all? You know, it's not just like picking a goal out all the time. It's like, what's going to make me happiest in my week to be most productive? And I think that's one of the biggest things is, like, okay, my goal is to, like, be most productive, have more fun, serve more people, make more money. Those are all things that require like an abundance, excited mindset that to go forward. So how do I take the tasks I'm doing and organize that correctly to achieve ultimately the goals that we've set out to do? So I think for me, it's like, oh my God, what gets me jazzed every day to, like, keep doing it and organize my time that way? And that was huge. That's a huge thing. I don't think I thought about it, time management in an energy management type of way until recently. So that's my key takeaway.
I love it, and I will come to you in a second, Abbie. I will share first that Adric says his key takeaway is that personality is key. Alignment is imperative to the achievement of success in whatever venture you pursue. I absolutely agree with that. I totally love it. If you can find alignment between who you are and where you want to be, it's just going to be there easily for you. Amy's key takeaway, I love it. Having a community like this will help you identify values. I couldn't agree with anything more. Everybody should join this community. bebuildhave.com/join live, and do it because Amy said so. And then Diana's key takeaways that alignment and balance, and the action steps that she's going to take. I love it. Alignment and balance. Like, if we can find these things in our lives, if we can create these things in our lives, success just becomes easy. And it can feel hard to believe that, but that's why we break it down into this process. I mean, we give you the entire process from beginning to end. We have something to work towards. If you're having trouble identifying with your core values, we can solve that problem. If you're having trouble tying your goals to your core values, we can solve that problem. Every step of this process, there's a solution to. So absolutely create that alignment, create that balance, and get out there and achieve your goals. All right, Abbie, you're up.
Yeah, it was the core values. I mean, just right when you opened it, I was just like, That's awesome. Like I have my goals, I know, and they are in alignment with your core values, but I'm gonna totally go back and probably change some of those because it was just a really interesting way to really just think about it and how to serve people better. That's at the end of the day, when you get in alignment with your core values, you're gonna be serving your people better.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I will add, Amy does also comment, it only took her 20 years to train me to say that she's absolutely right, and I agree with her. I'm not sure that's true. She's right a lot of the time. I think I've always admitted that, but I do have a daily planning worksheet to help keep some of this stuff straight. That starts with what are my top goals, what are the key projects that I'm working on that are going to advance me towards those goals, and then what are just like the one or two things that I have to get done today to feel like today's a success and know that I'm working towards those goals. If you want to download that, absolutely free. Just go to bebuildhave.com/worksheet, and you can download that. It's a single-page planning worksheet, and you can just use it every day to keep those goals in the top of your mind, keep track of your projects that you have working on, and so that every day you can get that number one thing done. bebuildhave.com/worksheet. Bill and Abbie, thanks so much for joining me today. I loved it. I think this is a great group, and like everybody's been saying throughout, going back to that Jim Rohn quote, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with, and you guys are the people that I want to hang around with. I love it. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was fun. Thank you.
You going to come back again, Abbie? Bill's been with me for a couple weeks now. Again?
I'm going to be in Chicago next week, so I will catch you, I guess, when you come back on your next one. But I'll be on site in Chicago.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
I'll think of you. I'll send you good vibes.
Love it, love it. We will be back here next week, Friday the 24th, 2 p.m., bebuildhave.com/join live. The following week I'll be gone, but then we'll get back on track. I want to really keep this going every Friday at 2 p.m. to give business owners that resource to re-energize, reconnect, focus on their goals, focus on what's going well in their business, get some help with any challenges they might be having. If you want to come on the video, you're welcome to do that. If you want to participate in the chat, that's awesome. We've got some great participation. We're just going to keep this going. So until we speak again, be the person you want to be, build the business you want to build, and have the successful life you want to have. What's my brand again? How does that work? I love it. All right, thanks for joining me, guys.
See ya.
Bye, guys. Thank you.